What up, Clock Dodgers? What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Yes, we have a great episode here for you guys. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are in this world. I hope it is a perfect day for you right now. But it's about to get a little bit better because I have a great episode here for you guys. A great guest, super entertaining, super knowledgeable. So you're really going to enjoy it. We talked about week 6 of the NFL season. We covered a little bit of everything. We covered DFS. We covered dynasty. We covered redraft. Like, I really don't know if I don't think we missed a beat here, man. And you'll see. You'll see in the episode why we didn't miss a beat. The guest was great. Before we get into the guest and before we get into the conversation, of course, I just want to tell you guys about No Halftime, the daily fantasy sports app. If you're not playing No Halftime yet, now, see, you may say to yourself, well, I already play daily fantasy sports and I play, such and such or blah, blah, blah. That's great. That's really great. I'm really happy for you. But if you're not playing No Halftime, you're really missing out on a whole different aspect to daily fantasy sports. Like, I promise you, the other sites you're using or the other apps you're using are not like No Halftime. I'm talking about a platform that allows you to take your grievances, take your arguments, take your battles with other people in regards to players like Brady versus Rodgers or Golden Tate versus Willie Snead. Like, literally any arguments you want, this platform allows you to do 1-versus-1 challenges, right? So say you feel really strongly about a certain player this week and your friend feels really strong about somebody else. This app allows you to put that challenge out there, whether you want to do it for free. Hey, if that's your style, that's fine. But you can put money on the line, $5, $10, whatever you're looking to do, just to prove a point. You know what I mean? Rub it in a little bit. And you do these challenges, it tracks everything for you. It tracks the scoring. It tracks everything. So everything's there for you. You don't have to do any math. You don't have to do no special breakdowns of anything. You don't have to hope that 15 different players hit and that every single prediction you had with your 50 different lineups, that some of them started hitting. No, literally, it's 1-versus-1. Keep it simple, guys. That's how life is. Life is best kept simple. You know what I mean? So download No Halftime today. We give you a little bonus. You use the promo code CLOCK when you sign up, CLOCK, at login. Well, actually, not at login. On your first deposit. Well, no, it's at login, but when you first sign up. But when you give your first deposit, you will get a 50% bonus up to $50. Up to $50 of your deposit. And it's like, if you're already using it and you're already taking advantage of it and you're already having fun with it, you know how good it is. Get other people involved. It just makes it more fun. The more people who are playing, you can actually create little leagues on there, like little like groups, and keep track of it that way and kind of, score yourselves that way. But it's really fun. There's a lot to get into. It's not just football. It's all kinds of other sports that it covers as well. So get in there, use the app. It's a lot of fun. Again, it's No Halftime, a daily fantasy sports app. Use the promo code CLOCK, CLOCK. We got you covered. As always, we got you covered. I wouldn't tell you about it. I wouldn't have them sponsor this podcast if I didn't believe it was a great product. If I wasn't having fun myself with it, I wouldn't tell you about it. It's just not my style. So go on there. If you're new to the podcast, do it now. Just hit pause, that little pause button. No matter what podcast app you're using, you can hit the pause button. Do it now. Don't wait till later, because we're busy people, right? We're just busy. By nature, we forget about things. So get on there now. Do it. Take advantage of the offer, because I can't tell you how long it's going to go for. I can't promise you. Sometimes the promo codes change. You get different kind of offers. It goes away at some point. I can't keep promising you. So take advantage of it now. Don't wait. Let's have some fun. Send some challenges out there. It's a lot of fun. It really is. Other than that, guys, let's go ahead and get into the podcast. Again, the guest is none other than Matt Kelley, Playerprofiler.com, RotoUnderworld podcast. You know him, right? If you play fantasy football, excuse me. If you play fantasy football, you know exactly who I'm talking about, right? I mean, if you don't, then you're probably not winning. You're probably losing some games. You're probably not raking in the dough. At fantasy_mansion is his Twitter. I highly recommend you follow him. And any of these things, whether it's the podcast, whether it's his Twitter, he's entertaining, right? So he brings that other dynamic. He's not just a smart guy. He's not just a guy who knows his shit. He's also a guy who's funny, who brings, this different character to everything. And so I if you do it, you'll enjoy it. That's all I can tell you. And if you just listen to this conversation here and take away what you take away from it, and then go, if you're not already listening to his stuff, and then go see if you want to do that. But great dude, really good guy, funny, and knows his stuff. So let's go ahead and get into the conversation. No reason to keep holding you out, right? You want to hear what we got to say. So let's go ahead and get into the conversation. I will actually catch you guys on the other end of this conversation. I do want to talk to you again really quick before we close this thing out. So let's go ahead and get into the conversation. I will see you guys on the other side.
And I play with them.
You are now locked in to the Clock Dodgers podcast.
Clock Dodgers podcast.
Matt, welcome to the Clock Dodgers podcast. I've had a decent amount of guests on this podcast, but it's safe to say, as far as you and your style goes, man, there's not been anyone quite like you. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm glad you're joining me here today.
What's up, Clock Dodgers?
Yes, sir. How are you doing today, man? Everything good?
Yeah, I'm good. You good?
I'm good. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, man, loving life. It's been a great week.
Absolutely. It's week 6 NFL season here. Some games going on right now. A little bit of action happening. So
no, last week was I'm still glowing from last week.
Yeah.
Last week was a high that I'm still high off of last week, and it's been 4 days.
Absolutely. Well, that's kind of what I wanted to actually start with you with, because, we're going to kind of jump around here from topics and different things, but anyone who listens to your podcast or, visits playerprofiler.com, stuff like this, they know players that, you've been on for a while here that, you had a really good week last week. Guys like Aaron Jones, McKinnon, Devin Funchess, guys like that. So I wanted to, dig a little further and kind of expand on them a little bit, if you don't mind.
I'm always ready to talk about Devin Funchess, Aaron Jones, Jerick McKinnon, and others.
It's an interesting group. So let's start with Aaron Jones then. He's Packers rookie running back. Obviously last week he played fantastic and with time on out and everything. But I feel like the big question that everyone keeps asking is, what about when Timeout returns, right? We don't know if it's going to happen this week or not. It's probably not likely, but he's practicing a little bit. So, what do you feel like with this whole situation? I mean, there's obviously enough for them both to eat in the offense, I would say, but do you feel good about both of them eating off that same plate, or, do you wait, kind of side with one over the other at this point?
Yeah, the Packers have done this before with Eddie Lacy, James Starks, and you can go back to their history. And most teams want to go with some kind of committee. Ideally, they just don't have the personnel. The Packers didn't think they had the personnel until they found out, we do have the personnel. Aaron Jones can be a featured running back for this team. He proved it last week, and he also proved it at UTEP. So he posted a 47% dominator rating on playerprofiler.com. And to put that in context, that measures Aaron Jones' contribution to the overall offense. So he was accounting for 47% of the offense at UTEP, which is a giant number. 97th percentile. I mean, that's all you have to say.
Right.
So he looks like a combination of LaShawn McCoy, Duke Johnson. He has an incredible list of comps at Player Profiler. When you look at his size, you look at his athleticism and his college production, it's just hit after hit after hit after hit. You can look at satellite backs like Giovanni Bernard that he's comparable to, or you can look at players like Matt Forte that he's comparable to. So it's just great player after great player that this guy's comparable to. His comps are in stark contrast to like a Jamal Williams, who does not compare well to many good players in the NFL, at least players that had sustained production. So I think that Aaron Jones is here to stay. I think that the dream of Ty Montgomery being a top 5 running back this year in fantasy is over. It's finished. It was finished when he got hurt.
Right.
It was also finished when Aaron Jones performed so well. Now you can imagine Ty Montgomery is going to come back to a 60% opportunity share, down from 80%, and Aaron Jones is going to get the remainder of the carries and touches. Ty Montgomery is not going to relinquish the passing game work. He's a former receiver. So you'll still see the Packers deploy Ty Montgomery in the hurry up, Ty Montgomery in 2-minute drill, all passing situations. But the between the tackles carries, drive to drive, they're going to rotate.
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen.
That's exciting too. It's exciting that they both had that kind of potential, like you're saying, within the offense. Now,
It's exciting for Packers fans.
Yeah.
It's exciting for anyone like me that likes the aesthetic of a well-orchestrated offense, a nice talent configuration, the right guys in the right roles. When you look at it conceptually, you'll love it. As a fantasy gamer, it's not great because Ty Montgomery owners don't have what they had 2 weeks ago, and they won't have it unless Aaron Jones gets hurt in Ty Montgomery. So that's a bummer for them. Luckily, fortunately, this is one of the few offenses, like the Saints, like the Patriots, that can sustain two very fantasy viable backs, where you can imagine Ty Montgomery as a low-end RB1 to finish the season and Aaron Jones as a low-end RB2 to finish the season. That's very plausible in that Packers offense, given how many possessions they have, the number of red zone carries, the number of total reps that these running backs will be afforded in that offense, makes them both fantasy viable.
And so to be kind of direct with it, you're not looking to get rid of either one of these guys, as long as obviously you're not getting hit with a crazy offer. You're good with both.
No, you're not going to be able to get Ty Montgomery right now because everyone just runs out to best case scenario. He'll be back this week, be back to his old self. That's not going to happen. But that's how the market views Ty Montgomery. So he's not someone you can trade for, and I wouldn't trade him because it's hard to find running backs in great situations with nice talent profiles. So I'm holding Ty Montgomery, but I'm trying to get Aaron Jones everywhere I can if I didn't already get him off the waiver wire based on this Ty Montgomery news that he's practicing. I think that that's fake news. I think that he's practicing by going through the motions because in the NFL, they don't really practice the way they practice in training camp. These aren't padded practices.
Right.
It's not full contact. So you can go out there with broken ribs and run around. That's not the problem. So, of course, he's going to log a full practice. That's not news at all. That tells you absolutely nothing about his status. So check in on Saturday. He'll likely be doubtful again because he has broken ribs. And based on the advanced analytics looking at rib injuries, the probability is that he'll miss 2 to 3 games. The thing is, assuming he misses this week, they have a game in week 7, and then they have a bye week. So if you're the Packers, why the hell would you play Ty Montgomery in the next 2 weeks? Just rest him, play Aaron Jones, continue to let Aaron Jones audition, and then bring back Ty Montgomery with healthy ribs in week 9. That would be the ideal scenario for the Packers. I think they might do that. I would do that. I put myself in the shoes of management, and if I'm in management, Green Bay, that's what I'm doing. And if that plays out that way, Aaron Jones gets New Orleans in week 7.
Ooh, tempting. Very, very beautiful. That's about as good as it gets. If he plays like he played last week against New Orleans, that's a nice situation.
It's very possible. Just I would not run out and make decisions based on practice status for a guy with broken ribs.
Right.
It's irrelevant.
Right, absolutely. So, okay, so going from a situation like that where you got these two guys who you do believe are viable, one's healthy and everything is going, to a situation like McKinnon, who, again, it's a guy you've loved. He's not a rookie, obviously. He's in a totally different situation as far as the offense and whatnot. Last year, people were high on him, and they kind of, he disappointed. Let's just be honest. He kind of failed people in some people's eyes.
The whole offense failed last year.
Right.
That's really what happened. The whole offense imploded because the offensive line was wrecked. I mean, I think every starter on the offensive line experienced missed games, and many of them were out for the year at one point. It was really sad what happened to their offensive line.
Right.
It torpedoed their season, really.
So the circumstances have changed, and obviously that looks like it's really benefiting him for in a big way. If we're going off of last week and thinking it's going to keep carrying over,
right?
Do you feel like it's for real now with him? Like, do you feel really good about him now, or do you feel like it's going to be kind of a roller coaster again?
Jerick McKinnon's not a traditional every down player. He's not a bell cow back. That's not what he is. He's a satellite back plus,
right?
Which is a guy like Duke Johnson, a guy that's thrust into a role that is beyond the traditional satellite back. So not just a passing down back, but like we were talking about with Ty Montgomery, what Ty Montgomery's role will be when he comes back, 60% opportunity share, getting all the passing down work, all the specialty looks, with all the specialty packages, as well as, splitting between the tackles, carries, rotating series to series between the 20s. So that's what Ty Montgomery can look forward to when he returns. That's what Jerick McKinnon has now, where he gets to split between the tackles work with Latavius Murray, but he gets to enjoy the splash plays that Latavius Murray can't deliver on, and he's getting red zone work too. So he's trusted in a way that Latavius Murray is not. It's not surprising that a team that knows what they have in Jerick McKinnon, knows he's a reliable back, has been a reliable back since he arrived, shockingly reliable even as a rookie playing running back for the first time because he was a converted quarterback. That's what he was at Georgia Southern. So he comes to Minnesota and carves out a 50% opportunity share as a rookie in his first year playing the position. So he was impressing the coaches years ago. Didn't get a chance to do anything in his sophomore season with Adrian Peterson leading the league in rushing. And then last year, with the entire offense imploding, didn't get a chance to show. Now, for the first time, he's on an offense that has a competent offensive line where they're opening some running lanes, and he has the explosiveness to take advantage and get the most out of those running lanes in a way that Latavius Murray cannot. The coaches know this, so you're going to see Jerick McKinnon getting fed and Jerick McKinnon using his athleticism to turn what could be a 5-yard run into a 50-yard run. That's going to happen. You like Jerick McKinnon because of the splash plays, yet those aren't sustainable. He's not going to have a 50-yard run every week.
Right.
He might have a bunch of 50-yard runs, like 3 in a row, and then not for the rest of the season. That's how these long runs are. So I like Jerick McKinnon, but I don't love that offense anymore without Sam Bradford. So they're not going to have the same volume there, the same red zone carry volume that those backs in Green Bay would enjoy, for example. So I'm not as excited about Jerick McKinnon as I would be if Jerick McKinnon were on another team that had a more efficient offense. Now we have Diggs hurt with a groin injury that he experienced last year, and the track record on players playing through groin injuries is bad.
Right, never good.
So I'm not that excited about the offense right now, especially with Case Keenum at quarterback. We'll see what happens when Teddy Bridgewater comes back. I think there will be an uptick, but we don't know what Teddy Bridgewater is. Last time we saw Teddy Bridgewater, he lost a leg. So we really have no idea what Teddy Bridgewater is. So that there's certainly some ambiguity around McKinnon. I'm not running out and saying this guy's an RB1 in fantasy. He's just not. That's not what he is. He's not built that way. I don't think that's him. I think what you can look forward to is Duke Johnson level production, but getting more carries and just not quite as active in the passing game as Duke Johnson, but sort of similar output to what Duke Johnson's been giving you lately. I think you can look forward to something like that from Jerick McKinnon, which is good.
Right.
Which is good. It's a really high floor player, right? But again, doesn't have that top 5 upside that we were enjoying with Ty Montgomery before he got hurt. That's not what Jerick McKinnon is. You're not just going to replace what you had with Ty Montgomery in the first 4 weeks with Jerick McKinnon today. It's not quite that, but it's still exciting.
Yeah. So exciting, definitely exciting. So we got guys like Aaron Jones, we got McKinnon, we got these guys, exciting situations. And then the last guy I wanted to hit on really quick with you before we go into other stuff is Funchess. So, the other guys were easy for me. I bought into those, and when guys like you talked about them and just seeing them, I bought into those. Funchess was a guy that took me a little while. For some reason, it just, I don't know what it was, but he just took me a little longer to come around on.
You just got to watch him play at this point.
Yeah.
He looks like a stud out there. He looks like he belongs. He looks the part of an alpha dog wide receiver. I mean, I don't even watch the games. All I've seen is some highlights. And you can tell, like, he has the swagger factor that Kelvin Benjamin does not. Kelvin Benjamin's always sort of moping around, and he doesn't always look sure of himself. Devin Funchess knows he's good, and you can tell that is having an effect on Cam Newton. Cam Newton implicitly trusts Devin Funchess in a way he does not trust Kelvin Benjamin, and that was expressed last year. One of the most underreported statistic maybe in all of fantasy football this offseason was that quietly Devin Funchess had a higher red zone target share in 2016 than Kelvin Benjamin did. So the transition, the changing of the guard was already happening. Now, Kelvin Benjamin is this number 2 option, this complementary option, which is where he belongs. right?
Right.
We saw him as a featured option at Florida State and just assumed because we saw the touchdown in the national championship game that that's who he was. That's not Kelvin Benjamin. He was out of his depth as a featured weapon, always super inefficient when given a huge target share. Devin Funchess is different. Devin Funchess was a better college producer at a younger age than Kelvin Benjamin. So much more dominant player, more athletic, has much more burst. So across the board, checked a lot more boxes coming out of college than Kelvin Benjamin did. And now he's only 23. He's still 3 years younger than Kelvin Benjamin as well.
That's crazy.
Devin Funchess is younger than Cooper Kupp. Devin Funchess is younger than Kenny Galladay. And it's no surprise that now the light is coming on in a big way for him. And so he's sort of a souped-up version of Devontae Adams when Devontae Adams broke out as a sophomore, except that Devin Funchess is more skilled across the board.
Okay, so with that being said, let me ask you two things then. One, when Olsen returns, are you concerned at all? Do you feel like that hurts him at all? Hurts Funchess?
I don't think so, because the rapport he's building with Cam Newton is real, and that's not going to go away. Like I said, Cam Newton really trusts him in the red zone. Greg Olsen was never a big red zone threat. That wasn't Greg Olsen's game. I think that the offense continues to be efficient when Greg Olsen comes back, an uptick in efficiency. But when you've established yourself as the number one guy, the alpha dog, you always eat.
Right.
It's the other guys that have to concede targets when another option enters the passing game, another quality option. So my guess is that the return of Greg Olsen will cannibalize targets more from Kelvin Benjamin than it would Devin Funchess.
Okay.
I mean, that's the thing. It's going to take weeks for fantasy gamers to really get their head around this idea that Devin Funchess is this, star in the making wide receiver, just because they've been treated to 2 years of inefficient football from him. And even before that, many tape grinders really didn't like Devin Funchess. They didn't like that he wasn't strong enough at the catch point based on the college film, right? So that odor is still lingering around Devin Funchess. It should have been lingering around Kelvin Benjamin, but it wasn't. It's been lingering around Devin Funchess for a long time. It's not going to be until week 11, 12 that the majority of fantasy gamers finally turn to each other and go, oh, this Devin Funchess guy's a hell of a player. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. And as far as KB goes, I mean, obviously you don't think he's as good as Funchess. You think he's a lot worse. Do you think him becoming a number two at some point helps him?
It's over, right? It's. I think this is a solved equation with Kelvin Benjamin. He's already 26 years old, so he's not going to be learning any new tricks.
Right.
I mean, this isn't a Kevin Hogan situation with Kelvin Benjamin, right? Kelvin Benjamin was bequeathed huge opportunity his first day in the league, right? And they've been trying to get him going and get him to become a number one option in the NFL, a traditional prototypical outside X receiver. And he just hasn't developed into that. And at this point, he won't.
Gotcha. I gotcha. So let me ask you something. You said something to me that I feel like is kind of important. You said how it's going to take a while for people who play fantasy football to come around to Funchess as far as understanding what his true place is.
Right. Yeah. The damage that the film grinders do on the reputation of some of these players by calling them soft at the catch point, sloppy route runners, which was the criticism laid at the feet of Devontae Parker, that does real damage. It really throttles their perception in the community and allows you to take advantage in trade by waiting for them to start to break out and show signs of life before you have to trade for them. You don't have to time the market perfectly. You can wait for these guys to start showing you something, to start for Devontae Parker to start out targeting and out producing overall in fantasy football Jarvis Landry before you consider trading for him. And you can do the same thing with Devin Funchess. Wait until he starts to outproduce Kelvin Benjamin on a regular basis, and there's still a window of a few weeks there where you can still trade for him at a reasonable price.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and I talk about it on the show weekly, where I feel like, how it's really important to be ahead of what's, I guess cool or what's mainstreamly accepted. I mean, this is in life in general, but also just when you're pertaining to fantasy football, when it comes to waivers or trading for guys or, setting your lineup, it seems like, a lot of people playing fantasy don't want to do anything unless it's totally been accepted, right? What is the deal with that? What do you think that
they want the brand recognition. They want the guys that have the brands. So you're brand chasing. So the thing you do in fantasy football is you offer brands that you might have for lesser brands, and then you can capitalize. That's the best way to go. The best thing is when you have a brand name quarterback, right? And we know that quarterbacks, carry less weight in fantasy football value wise, but that's not it's hard to process when someone loses their quarterback or their quarterback's underperforming. Someone out there has Ben Roethlisberger. You start to panic, right? And if you have a quarterback with a brand recognition, a brand name quarterback who's playing very well, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, you can offer that player and you can go and say, well, I'd like you, maybe if you could throw in Devin Funchess into this trade as well, that would be great. Maybe Aaron Jones, because Ty Montgomery's coming back. So maybe if you can give me Aaron Jones and give me, Devin Funchess, right?
Right, absolutely.
And then I'll give you Drew Brees, and I'll throw in, random receiver X who is pretty much doomed for the rest of the season, like Eric Decker, someone like that with some residual brand equity. And then all of a sudden you're coasting in week 11 and 12, and you're like, how did you get all these players? And like, oh, someone traded them all to me that had them. And like they didn't know what they had or they didn't appreciate. What they were trying to do is that the thing that you can get people on is there's always a rush to capitalize on your good fortune, right? And sell high. So you find the guys that think they're selling high, think they're cashing their chips in because they hit on the waiver wire lottery.
Right.
You're like, yes, please, you should cash your chips in. Yes, absolutely. You've been waiting for this opportunity to get Drew Brees or get Tom Brady. Now's your chance to trade for him. I'll take those guys. I'll take your lottery ticket. Please, let's do this. Yes, okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it. All right, nice. Deal. Okay.
It's good stuff. I love it.
I'm trying to think of a guy that has some brand equity that's where he's leaking, but you can still maybe, like, for example, Jay Ajayi, where he still has that second round draft capital allure, even though it's clear he's not going to produce, second round pick level fantasy points.
Right.
So he's gonna underperform his ADP this year. That's a dead certainty. So that's why. So you can do sell low and buy high, which is super counterintuitive, and it's against the some of the fundamental tenets of fantasy football. But it absolutely is a way to crush your league mates by doing this to them, to give them this like flaming bag of feces that is Jay Ajayi, and all they remember is the brand equity, the second round pick, all the 200-yard games from last year, which we talked about earlier, is unsustainable, certainly in this climate. And now they don't even have an offensive line coach. So it's a big surprise their offensive line wasn't blocking well when the offensive line coach was in the office doing coke. That's a shocker. That's a very Miami story. And of course, that's how things play out in Miami. So no surprise. So that's what you do. You just take a guy that someone eager to buy low on, you put him out there, and then you buy high on their guys.
Does Amari Cooper fall into that for you?
Well, Amari Cooper is a stay away. So I think the market should be frozen on Amari Cooper, because I would not sell him here because his prospect profile is too good. He's been too successful in his first two seasons to just walk away.
Right.
Only a handful of wide receivers in the NFL have ever been as successful as Amari Cooper, ever been as productive in their first two seasons. Rarefied air is where Amari Cooper existed coming into this season in terms of uber prospects, in terms of phenoms, in terms of just precocious talents, going all the way back to his freshman year at Alabama, where he put up double-digit touchdowns. So this guy has been good at football his whole life. Something is wrong.
Right.
Something is
off.
wrong, and I don't know what it is. The numbers are telling me two very conflicting things. They're saying this guy is one of the best receivers of all time over here when I zoom out, and then when I zoom in, I'm seeing that he's worse than Greg Little this year.
Right.
So he's Brown's Greg Little this year. So those two things there's too much conflict there. So the analysis and the data on Amari Cooper is so incongruent that it basically locks up the system. It shuts the computer down. Okay? And when you see that happening, you just have to just not do anything. You have to freeze.
Just step away
from it. If you own him, hold him. But don't go trade for him either. Okay? Just wait. You just have to wait for new information. We need new information, man. We don't have enough information. Something is wrong. I don't know what it is, but I know what I don't know.
Right.
So there's a known unknown with Amari Cooper. And if you go out and you trade for him, that's cavalier. You think that you know more than the next guy. You don't.
Right.
You don't know what's going on with Amari Cooper. And if you go out there and trade for him, you're just pretending that you know and you really don't know. So I admit when I don't know about Amari Cooper, and I don't know. Someone says, oh, well, is Amari Cooper going to have a rebound in the second half? Is it just a difficult schedule in the first half? And my answer is maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. A maybe Cooper. That's his nickname right now. A maybe Cooper. That's what he
like
is.
that.
Wide receiver, Oakland Raiders, now Las Vegas Raiders. A maybe Cooper.
That's fair. He's in limbo, folks. He's in limbo. Just hold off.
Yeah, he's in this limbo purgatory. You just can't touch him. He literally is. He's in one of these like vacuum sealed chambers where we're just not sure if he has a disease, right? He might have like the disease that wipes out the human race. He might have this deadly virus. So we just cannot touch him. We can't let anyone near him.
He might have the virus, or he could have the cure.
I don't know he doesn't have. There's certainly no cure. He cures nothing. The only thing Amari Cooper can cure you of are fantasy football wins. He'll cure that real quick.
All right, so we'll move on from Amari Cooper. It's not looking good right now. We'll have to just hold off. So what I want to do is
back, man.
let's
check back in on Amari Cooper. Let's check in. Just be like a scientist, man. Just treat Amari Cooper like you're a scientist, like you're just probing. You have no idea what this is. This is a scientific oddity. So just check that box score this Sunday with the Raiders, just like you're a scientist, like you're trying to figure out a puzzle.
And we'll just keep checking, keep plugging away. All right, so let's do some Clock Dodgers ranking really quick. I like to I'm going to throw a couple of categories. I'm going to just do like 3 of these, where I'm going to give you 3 choices, and you just rank them first, second, and third. First being your favorite of the group, and third being last, of course. Wide receivers. These are wide receivers in order that you like from first to last, and PPR fantasy production for the rest of the season.
Okay.
So the 3 guys are Willie Snead, Fuller, and Doxson.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's pretty easy. Fuller, then Snead, then Doxson.
Fuller, Snead, Doxson. Okay, I see that. I like that. Doxson, because of the injuries, is the biggest concern, right?
I mean, Doxson's being outproduced by Ryan Grant. I mean, on our weekly rankings, we have Ryan Grant ahead of Josh Doxson just because he's getting targets and Josh Doxson's not. I want Josh Doxson to be a thing badly. When Josh Doxson had that spectacular Randy Moss-like touchdown catch, I was hoping that was a signal of things to come, and then Terrell Pryor went out and dominated the target share. And that hope evaporated that he would take over the Terrell Pryor role. He's not going to take over the Jamison Crowder role. And as of now, because Ryan Grant is a far superior blocker and the coaches trust him more than they trust Doxson, he can't take over even Ryan Grant's role. So he's the situational asset that can offer you a big splash play once a game, and that's it. That's not a guy you buy for the season. You can stash him in Dynasty, but even in Dynasty, I'm not that excited about it. I want to see more. I needed to see more up until this point. We've already a quarter of the way through the season for Doxson, and still we have one catch that we can point to and say that's impressive. Willie Snead's interesting because Ted Ginn hasn't played well, and he's on the Saints. So we give him the benefit of the doubt as a 1,000-yard receiver last year, that he's getting his life back together, and that they're going to come out this week and get him involved. So we hope that happens. But with Fuller, he's very involved. He's the second option, and he's a big play threat. And when the ball's in the air, Will Fuller converts, and you love that. And you love that Deshaun Watson's looking his way a lot.
Absolutely.
And it just, you feel like when the ball is in the air and Will Fuller is the target, that he's going to come down with it. And he's young. And what he's doing in terms of touchdown percentage, touchdown conversion percentage on a per target basis, I mean, that's not sustainable, but it's hella impressive.
Right.
And he's doing a hell of a lot more than Willie Snead and Josh Doxson have this season.
Yeah, that's always the takeaway when we have these things happening where we say they're not sustainable. But the fact that it's happening is a sign in itself.
Yeah,
right?
It's not like we're not running out and making Will Fuller a top 10 option every week. That's not going to happen. Not with DeAndre Hopkins there, and not with a rookie quarterback, because Deshaun Watson's still a rookie quarterback. There's going to be weeks where Will Fuller has one catch for 15 yards.
Right.
Those lines are going to happen. Absolutely. But he's also going to continue to have some big boom weeks. So he's like put him in the same class as Deshaun Watson. I mean, Deshaun Jackson.
Deshaun Jackson.
There's a lot of Deshaun's on my mind right now, but put him in the same class as the Deshaun Jackson right now, where you're going to get some boom weeks and you enjoy them, and you just hope that you've played him, that he's active in those weeks.
Absolutely. All right, cool. That makes sense. So let's go away from Deshaun's for a second. Running backs, similar situation. Running backs, and we're PPR again, fantasy production, rest of the season. Andre Ellington, Marlon Mack, and Elijah McGuire.
Well, I think Ellington for the rest of the season for sure. I like McGuire this week, assuming Bilal Powell doesn't play. That's exciting. I think Elijah McGuire is an RB1 in fantasy this week. I think you can lock that in, write that down.
It'd be exciting to Powell
top 12 running back against New England as the featured guy.
Yeah.
And that's going to be woo! But assuming Bilal Powell returns and Matt Forte returns, then he goes back to a secondary role in the offense. I think that he's going to earn more carries, just like Aaron Jones, but I don't think he's going to be a featured guy. I think they'll still fall back on the guys they know and trust, like a Bilal Powell and a Matt Forte. But Andre Ellington is that guy already. Andre Ellington's been there a while. They know what he is. They know what they have in Andre Ellington, and he's a great satellite back. He's a heavily used satellite back because they pass the ball so damn much. They're league bottom in run plays, and they're top of the league in pass plays. That's what the number one pass to run ratio gives you. I just laid it out in the most elongated way possible. But if you're the satellite back on a team that is essentially decided they're only going to throw the ball, then you're going to be super productive. And sure enough, there's Andre Ellington, double-digit targets game after game. Does it change with Adrian Peterson? Do they change their philosophy? I doubt it. My guess is that Adrian Peterson doesn't have any more juice than Chris Johnson did at this point in their respective careers.
Right.
And the Cardinals' offensive line is horrific. It was horrific last year. David Johnson, his greatness is only now being fully appreciated because their offensive line wasn't good last year. But
he got it done.
He produced in spite of a lack of running lanes. Adrian Peterson can't do that. So I think they're going to fall back on the pass-first approach, knowing that's the only way they can score. And that means Andre Ellington's in the game, and he's going to continue to post huge numbers. I mean, I have him a little bit higher, actually, than Duke Johnson for the remainder of the season, just because I think that Andre Ellington is going to be one of the most consistently used running backs in the passing game in the NFL. I have him right there with Christian McCaffrey, Duke Johnson, and Alvin Kamara. I have them all bunched up right around slot 20 rest of season.
Interesting. Yeah, and that makes sense. And it's funny because they were trying him out. If I recall correctly, they were trying him at wide receiver, weren't they, in the offseason? So it's funny that
right. It's
Johnson
weird
gets
because
hurt
he was thought to be their featured running back 3 years ago. He flamed out as a featured option at the running back position because he just wasn't big enough to absorb the workload, and that's fine. And then they didn't know what to do with him. They didn't need him with David Johnson because David Johnson's an all-purpose guy. David Johnson with his all-terrain skill set, he's even better in the passing game than Andre Ellington. So Andre Ellington wasn't needed. But now Andre Ellington is very needed. I sort of miss that. When David Johnson went out, I should have thought, wow, this is an amazing opportunity for Andre Ellington to reestablish himself as a featured weapon in the passing game. Those neurons didn't fire,
right.
And I'm disappointed in myself that they didn't.
Yeah, I can see that, but yeah, hindsight, obviously, it's easy to to say that.
Well, they're such a pass-heavy team that I should have been able to connect the dots. It was a mistake.
I got lucky in a dynasty league.
I own it. It was a mistake.
I got lucky in a dynasty league. I picked them up like a deep bench in a dynasty just because they were trying to out a wide receiver. I was like, what the hell? And then hey, it's working out right now. Obviously, till DJ gets back. Big time. All right, the last one I want to rank here is these things are entertaining to me, so I'm hoping they're entertaining to you as well. Rank these things in enjoyment of when you read them. Okay, so we got tweets that say you were wrong after the week's over. We have bad podcast reviews. And then we have books, long-ass books that you could just watch the movie instead. So rank those and you're from favorite to not favorite.
Favorite to not favorite. Well, I love books. So books is number one, easily. On my podcast, the RotoUnderworld Radio podcast, check it out on iTunes, RotoUnderworld Radio. We actually refer to a lot of books. I have a lot of books on psychology and behavioral economics.
What about movie books?
Super insightful when it comes to fantasy football. You can glean a lot. Like, remember, I talked if you listen to the show over the summer, talked about this concept called vividness bias, where the splash plays really have this searing effect on your memory, and they really influence your perception of that player, even if, like the Josh Doxson situation,
right? Where
some of us were running out to best case scenario on Doxson based on that one splash play. Well, that was vividness bias, where we don't have the same sort of visceral response to watching Ryan Grant catch a touchdown.
Right.
Which is a very different situation. Well, there was a book by Michael Lewis, who wrote Moneyball, called The Undoing Project, where it really broke down this notion of vividness bias. So some of those things can be applicable to fantasy football, so that's great. In terms of movies, I love movies too. So sometimes when a book becomes a movie, I like the movie even better than the book. That happens very rarely, though. Oftentimes I like the book better.
Interesting.
But in the case of Lord of the Rings, for example, Lord of the Rings was as good as the books. I mean, that was a tie. I mean, I love the books, read the books multiple times, but the movies were unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is just very, like, when, when Gandalf is leading the army and they're coming up over the ridge and then the sun is rising and they think that they're in Helm's Deep and they think they're all going to die. And then the cavalry comes with Gandalf and they're coming over the ridge. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Right.
The visual effects of them were unbelievable. So that's, I mean, in terms of, I think when you have books and the book and the movie are kind of meeting and being just as good as the other, and that's one amazing example, incredible. In terms of the tweets, I would much rather read a negative review, because a lot of the negative reviews of our show actually make you want to listen to the show.
Exactly.
It's amazing. Like, they'll try to call me names, or someone will explain a segment that we did that I thought was an awesome segment. And then they'll explain it and they'll describe it. And I'll be like, that well describes our segment. That's exactly what the segment was. And it was incredible. And you just did a great job explaining it. But then they wrap it up by saying, and this is why I don't listen to the podcast. And I'm like, wait, whoa, what? You just oh, is it because it wasn't football related? Oh, because we strayed off into, we talked about music or we talked about something else. Okay, well, you don't like that? Then, this show is probably not for you. Go ahead and shuffle off, buddy, to the other. If you want to go to a fantasy football podcast that just does all the starts and sits for the week, go ahead, and it's fine. There's plenty of those out there. The tweets sometimes are annoying because the hindsight bias tweets where the followers just lie in wait. They lie in wait in the weeds, not even the weeds, like bamboo. That's how tall it is. They're lying in wait in the bamboo. It's like a Vietnam situation.
Yep.
And they're just waiting and waiting and waiting for one of the players I didn't like to play well, or a player I like to not play well, and then they just jump out after the result is already in. They play the result on me and call me an idiot. And I keep saying, that doesn't count. It doesn't count if you bring it up after the result. If you brought it up before the result and said, here's why I think you're wrong and this is how it's going to play out differently, that's fine. But no one's doing that. They're cowards playing the result from behind the bamboo shoots.
Couldn't agree more. I love it, man. It's bad. And you must get a lot more than the average, the average person.
I have a lot. I mean, I don't have that many followers. I only have like 14,000 followers. But my buzzard to follower ratio is very high. It's a very high ratio of people because they want to see the guy with the swagger humbled.
Right.
Like they aren't happy in their lives and they see that I'm clearly having a good time on my podcast and on Twitter and they are just not having it.
They're just hate listening.
This person humbled, right? There's too much conviction there and it's frustrating to see this guy with all this conviction continue to be right. So I need to pounce the moment he's wrong and make sure he's humbled because no one should be allowed to just live life in this, spectacular way, just swaggering through life. That's not allowed. Okay. You need to be as unhappy as I am. That's what's at the core of those fucking people.
Can't just be out here flourishing, Matt. You just can't do it, man.
No.
Can't do that.
No. You're dragging me down, but I won't let him.
Nope.
I won't let him. I will not let him. I have buzzard repellent and I have all these strategies and lots of amazing followers and listeners that it was just a constant battle, but we're absolutely winning. We're winning this war.
Yes, indeed you are. All right, great, man. That's it for the ranking. So the last thing I want to do with you here is this is like the staple of the show. This is foul or no foul. So
this is the staple.
This is a staple. So like no matter how many different segments happen, this is always there.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So let me explain it really fast. So for anyone who's new, who's listening, for you, anybody, I'm going to throw statements at you. And the statements, either you agree with them or you disagree with them. If you agree with it, then it's no foul. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a good call. If there is something wrong with it, it's a foul. It's like a flag on the play, however you want to call it. So it's foul or no foul. You got it? Good?
Okay.
All right, cool.
Okay.
All right, good.
It's that time again. Let's play another round of foul or no foul.
So the first one we have here is, the first statement is, Adrian Peterson is a waste of a waiver move. Foul or no foul?
It's my whistle. It's not a waste of a waiver move. Are you kidding me? He's a starting running back. You have to pick up starting running backs when they're available. We don't know whether their philosophy is going to change, how much they're going to be, recommitting to the run with Adrian Peterson.
Right.
You need to pick him up so you can find out.
That's fair. All right, so good. So no foul.
I still think Andre Ellington will outproduce him the remainder of the season because that's how they have to score points in the passing game, and that's where Andre Ellington is going to be just as active as he was with Chris Johnson on the team. But that said, you don't win in fantasy football by allowing your competitors to hog all the new starting running backs that pop up throughout the season. That's not how you win.
Right,
you need to be making plays for those guys and stop thinking you know everything. If he's a starter, I'm trying to pick him up. I went out and picked up Chris Johnson in a bunch of leagues. Why? Because you never know.
Right. There's
you
always
want to know
chance.
why I don't know? You want to know why I don't know? Because I remember Tim Hightower winning people leagues. Tim fucking Hightower, who wasn't athletic as a 21-year-old man, takes 3 years off, and at 30 years old, coming out of complete oblivion, wins championships in fantasy football. I remember Tim Hightower, and because I remember Tim Hightower, I'm picking up Chris Johnson, and then I'm picking up Adrian Peterson, and I'll pick up the next journeyman that falls into a starting role in the NFL. Book it.
Is it fair to say, Matt, that if they take away anything from this conversation, is that if Tim Hightower can do it, anybody can do it?
Yeah, anything is possible. I always say this. Anything is possible. We have probabilities, right? It's improbable that Deshaun Watson is going to be the best rookie quarterback of all time, despite the fact that he can't throw the ball faster than any other quarterback that's starting. He has a weaker arm than even Tyrod Taylor. It's possible, He was successful at Clemson, had a high QBR at Clemson. It's possible. It's just not likely if you're playing the probabilities, right? You're hitting on green on the roulette wheel when a guy like that performs like that, but that's fine. That's fine. Sometimes you take the upside is there with a guy that's a starting running back on an NFL team. We'll see. We'll see. The guy that we're most excited about is Mark Ingram. It's not Alvin Kamara.
Right.
Because Mark Ingram is going to move into a 60% opportunity share. He'll break his career record for carries if he stays healthy. And he should have a career year in fantasy football and be a top 10 running back the rest of the way because he's on an offense that fuels fantasy points. I mean, they just go up and down the field, and the team is fueled by fantasy points. There's just an exhaust of fantasy points that just shoots out of that New Orleans offense. And if you're a featured option in that offense, between the 20s, in the red zone, in the passing game, all those areas, Mark Ingram wins. So you need to get Mark Ingram. I mean, you need to trade for him now while there's still this ambiguity about his role and this sort of this idea, the speculation that Alvin Kamara could be in for a workhorse role, that they traded Adrian Peterson because they trust Alvin Kamara now, and they're going to make him a featured guy. That's not how it works.
Right. Yeah. Mark Ingram always seems like a guy that people, you can always obtain.
You got to get Mark Ingram.
You can always get him though, right? People don't fall in love with Mark Ingram for some reason.
You got to get Mark Ingram
for sure.
You got to stop chasing the guys based on brand equity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You got to stop chasing the guys that it's just the new thing. The new thing is not going to outproduce Mark Ingram in fantasy football this year.
I agree,
not going to happen.
I agree, man. I agree. The next statement. All right. Well, first off, the Wall Street Journal says that Roger Goodell's wife was, she was caught with this fake Twitter account, man. And she was using it to defend the NFL commissioner. It seemed like when people in the media and stuff said something about him, she would use this fake Twitter account to kind of defend him. So the statement is that Mrs. Goodell did the right thing by pulling a Kevin Durant in order to defend her husband. Matt, foul or no foul?
Sure, man. I wish my wife was that active defending me. Right? She could give a shit about what these buzzards say about me on social media. She's cheering them on. She's like, that's right. He is full of shit. That's right. He is arrogant. That's right. You people nailed it. No, that's not right. No, what are you doing? No, you're just encouraging these people. Defend me. I wish that she would do that. Craig Ghost account and defend me. That'd be amazing. I'd fall in love with her all over again. I'd have some amazing sex after I saw that account pop up.
The fake Twitter account thing is a real thing, man. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. You got to defend yourself some way, right?
Props to her, man. Props to her. What a great wife.
The next statement, we're talking about a guy you kind of mentioned a little bit here. Deshaun Watson can maintain a strong enough pace to statistically remain a top 5 fantasy quarterback.
Come on now.
Come on, Matt. The whistle is back.
Of course not, man. Of course not. 3 games, 2 of them against the 2 worst secondaries, giving up the most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks in fantasy football, and then a garbage time fueled explosion, a fireworks display in the sky against the Kansas City Chiefs. Child, please.
Not even giving it no time. All right. That's fine. These are both
rookie quarterback, man. He's a rookie quarterback. No.
All right.
Stop this.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
Be a top 5 option?
Listen.
What?
I'm going to make a fake Twitter account.
He won't be better than Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz will finish the season ahead of Deshaun Watson. You can book that because Carson Wentz has the volume. Carson Wentz has more seasoning, and he has the volume. He's on a pass-first offense, and they're prolific. So that's why I think Carson Wentz will outproduce Deshaun Watson. I think that's not a common take, but I think he absolutely will the rest of the way.
And if you tweet that, I will create a fake account and defend Deshaun Watson. I'm just
but Carson Wentz is playing really well.
No, it's true. You're right.
Carson, I'm not even picking a guy that's not playing well. I'm picking a guy that's playing great. He's just not getting the same accolades.
Yeah, he's not getting the attention.
He's not the high-profile producer right now that Deshaun Watson is, but you could argue that he's been playing just as well. And in fantasy football, you want volume. That's the most important thing. Deshaun Watson has been efficient in a way that's unsustainable. Volume is sustainable because volume is all about philosophy. It's about the fundamentals of the team and the structure and the philosophy and their approach. That doesn't change. Efficiency can oscillate wildly week to week.
Mm-hmm.
Efficiency is very difficult to sustain, but I can promise you, Carson Palmer, I can promise you, Carson Wentz, all the Carsons, right? They will be throwing a lot this season. Trust me.
Carson's over the Deshaun's, man.
Not Carson Palmer. No way. Come
Okay.
on. Not Carson Palmer. I mean, that inefficiency is real. That inefficiency won't suddenly, positively revert. No, Carson Palmer's washed. I'm talking about players that are clearly not washed, right? I think Carson Wentz, I think Matt Ryan are players that Deshaun Watson has dominated so far this season, but I don't think that'll continue. I think that's going to revert. I think Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, I think they'll all outproduce Deshaun Watson. But Deshaun Watson certainly looks like a top 10 option. I think he does.
Yeah, I mean, hey, quarterback's been crazy. Alex Smith right now. I mean, come on.
Alex Smith, there's no reason to think Alex Smith won't continue to outproduce Deshaun Watson. I mean, Alex Smith is the truth, man. Alex Smith is having a Matt Ryan-esque season. Matt Ryan's 2016 season, that baton was passed to Alex Smith for 2017.
I don't think anybody's seen it coming. Nobody.
Of course not.
It's incredible. All right, the next one.
You didn't have a brand equity, man. That's the thing. You go with the guy.
True.
Remember the trade we talked about?
That is true.
Well, in that trade, right, you would ask for Alex Smith in return, and you would give up Breeze.
Yeah, you would say just
right,
throw in
and
Alex
you would
Smith.
ask for Alex Smith and Devin Funchess and Aaron Jones in return.
Just throw them in,
Yeah.
Just
No, I'll give you, I'll give you Jonathan Stewart, and I'll give you Eric Decker, and I'll give you Drew Brees, and you give me just Alex Smith, Devin Funchess, and Aaron Jones, and that's a fair trade.
Absolutely. Just give me those guys. All right.
Sounds like a fair deal, right?
It does. It sounds fair to me.
Right?
Sounds
fair,
to me.
right?
Everything sounds kosher
all
to
my
me.
guys are well-known quantities, and all these guys that I'm asking for are they're garbage. Just give me your garbage. I'll take your trash out.
Oh man. All right. The next one. All right. So first of all, many people probably seen the Josh Gordon little interview documentary type thing by Uninterrupted.
Sure.
He looked good, right? I mean, so I'm a fan of Josh Gordon as far as the person. I hope it all is true and going well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you pull for guys like that.
Yeah. So now the statement is though, let's just say he does get reinstated.
No.
Stop. We're gonna stop there.
I mean, I've seen a lot, right? I've seen Tim Hightower.
But you just said anybody can do it.
Matt,
you said anything's
this requires a suspension of disbelief that I just can't. I can't make it there. I can't. Well, the nice thing is in football is really if you have the raw athleticism and you have the instincts, the instinctual feel for the game, that all comes back to you. But my problem is if you're out there and you're in these dalliances with chemicals,
right?
For example, like when I get, if I'm drinking, right, and I get home and I've been drinking a lot, I'm not in my right mind, and I'm hungry. I mean, the receptors in the brain, they want pleasure when you get into those things. That means you fire up the microwave, and all of a sudden you're microwaving a pizza at 2:00 in the morning. That's what Josh Gordon's been doing for 3 years. He's been eating microwave pizza, right? And he hasn't been running routes. So this is my problem. Okay, it's a larger problem. It's not that the fact that he has this on his resume doesn't preclude me from drafting him. Like, for example, I've drafted Martavis Bryant in leagues this year, right? But it's the length of the absence that really makes me question whether or not he can be relevant at the wide receiver position. At the running back position, it's even more all about raw ability and instinctualness. You could make a case for a running back being gone that long and then making a comeback a la Tim Hightower. So we've seen it.
Right.
I haven't seen it with a receiver. I mean, I have to see it. So at least show it to me once before, without forcing me to go into a complete blind faith scenario.
Right.
So I probably won't be burning a roster spot on Josh Gordon. There are just other receivers I really like. So for example, a guy I would much rather have on my deep taxi squad, right, would be a wide receiver like Austin Carr. Okay? Because you start to play it out in your head. What's going to happen with Austin Carr? Well, Austin Carr might be only a year away from being a top 24 wide receiver in the league. It's very plausible that Austin Carr becomes the number 2 option next year for the Saints. Clearly, there's issues with Willie Snead off the field, right?
This is true.
The team is down on Willie Snead. They banished him to the second team offense throughout the preseason, and no one understood what the hell was going on. And then he was suspended. And then there's this aha moment. Ted Ginn has been one of the epic busts in free agency and in fantasy football. And so there's this glaring need on the New Orleans Saints at the number 2 wide receiver position. And it's all about a player like Austin Carr, 46% dominator rating at Northwestern. That's a pack, that's a Big 12, not Big 12. Well, there's 12 teams, but it's called the Big 10 still. It's very confusing for me. The Pac-10 became the Pac-12, and then the Big 10 is still the Big 10, right? Because there's also a Big 12,
right. And
I think there's not even 12 teams in the Big 12, but there's actually more than 10 teams in the Big 10. Very confusing. So he's in a major conference program anyway, and a 47% dominator rating is a giant number to be accounting for almost 50% of the team's passing yards and passing touchdowns. And then he has what you love in a slot receiver, the 1077 93rd percentile agility score. So he has that Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Cooper Kupp, Kendall Wright skill set. But he was even more dominant at the college level than even those guys. And you put him on that Saints team that really needs a slot guy, really needs an underneath player, a la, let's say, Lance Moore plus.
Right.
So I think he's Lance Moore plus next year. So if you're looking for guys that are available in most dynasty leagues that you can just slot into a taxi squad slot, I'm much more hopeful for Austin Carr just based on his college resume and his current situation, which is a lot better than it seems on the surface because he's on the Saints.
I gotcha. So dig a little deeper. Josh Gordon, the obvious,
Yeah, Josh Gordon is just, he's just, it's the name brand guy.
Yeah.
Right? But it's so tarnished at this point. I don't think he's the same player. I don't think he'll ever be the same player again because of all those microwave pizzas.
Yeah. With all that being said, we're rooting for him. Hopefully. You
Of
never
course
know.
we're rooting for him.
Tim Hightower can do it. Matt.
Yeah, it's different.
The last statement I want to throw at you really quick, because this is obviously going to be on a lot of people's mind. While Zeke is suspended, if it happens, McFadden can be counted on for consistent fantasy production. Foul or no foul?
Foul.
Straight up
Best
foul.
kept secret in the NFL right now. The Dallas Cowboys offensive line stinks. As much of a turnaround as we've seen with the Minnesota Vikings offensive line, well, the opposite is true in Dallas. Where, because it's funny, I actually had this hypothetical last year. What if Jerick McKinnon and Ezekiel Elliott switch places and Jerick McKinnon got to run behind that Dallas offensive line? How would he look?
Right.
That was the hypothetical. Well, it's actually happening.
Yeah.
Except instead of exchanging running backs, they exchange offensive lines. Because
So
the Dallas
crazy.
Cowboys are in the bottom 10 in both protection rate on playerprofiler.com, which is percentage of passes with his hurry on the quarterback. Also run blocking efficiency in the bottom 10. So you put a running back with no juice, whether it's McFadden or Morris, behind an offensive line that can't open wide running lanes, and neither player is particularly active in the passing game, well, they're not going to be big-time fantasy producers. The only guy that you could trust to score, flex option-worthy fantasy points per week would be McFadden because he's the only one that does catch passes. I mean, Alfred Morris, forget it.
Right.
In a very deep league, you could consider Rod Smith. You could consider stashing Rod Smith just like you're stashing Austin Carr, because the two options ahead of him on the depth chart, if Ezekiel Elliott goes down, are both subpar. I mean, these are very underwhelming players. I think Alfred Morris is a good between the tackles runner, but he's incompetent in the passing game. I think Darren McFadden has been a plotter, but for some reason he is relatively efficient in the passing game. So he's interesting in that way. I think that's how they'll deploy the two backs. And I'm not excited. I'm not out there, bidding big on any Dallas Cowboys running back. If anything, I'll throw $1 on Rod Smith and try to get him stashed.
Now, if you could get McFadden, would you grab him and try to trade him? Would you try to flip him right away? Someone that's high on him?
I don't have time for that. To be honest, I'm not a big trader. I just don't have time. That's just not my thing. I'm not out here trying to make these trades. If someone wanted him, they would have gone and got him. And if my leagues that I run, that's most of the leagues that I'm in, there is no open waivers.
Gotcha.
Right?
So
there's blind bid processing windows, and that's it. That's so the people that have real lives and real jobs don't constantly lose out on these options on the waiver wire just because they weren't sitting in front of a computer the moment the news broke.
Right. Makes total sense. All right, so we don't feel good about either Cowboys running back.
No, I feel terrible about it.
Got it.
Yeah, because it's not the Cowboys offensive line that we thought it was. It's just not.
It's not.
The numbers say it's not.
Gotcha. All right, man. Well, Matt, we've kind of run the gamut here. We crushed this episode. We crushed it, man.
We did crush it.
We crushed it. Obviously, I can't.
We had metrics. We had hot takes. We had fun stories. We had, some diversions. We had bad whistling. We had it all.
I had a lot of bad whistling, but it was we don't know. Oh man. So it's been a good time for me, for you. It's been great. I hope everyone else enjoyed it. Can you let the Clock Dodgers out there who are listening know where to find you, how to consume your content, and the best way to support everything you do?
Yeah, playerprofiler.com. Playerprofiler.com with an R at the end. Playerprofiler.com. Go there, type in any player's name, and you can get all the advanced metrics you would ever want on that player. Also hit menu, and there you'll see the rankings. There you'll see our podcast. Everything is on playerprofiler.com, and you can follow me on Twitter. I'm a great Twitter follow. All I like to do is antagonize the audience and enrage my fellow fantasy analysts at fantasy_mansion.
Do that.
I'm the motherfucking podfather.
Definitely do that. You want to mention the Patreon thing too? Might as well, man.
Yeah, go to patreon.com if you're a fan of the show. So basically, check out the podcast on iTunes, RotoUnderworld Radio, or like I said, you can go to playerprofiler.com, check out the podcast. If you like the podcast, then you can become a patron of the podcast, and then you get extra show. We have swag, fun stuff for all the patrons. So we have this whole patron community of people that are my supporters, and we band together against the haters. So it's a little army. So if you go to patreon.com, search Podfather, you can sign up there. And the cool thing about that is, in addition to like the t-shirts and everything else you get, we do an extra show per week called the Backstage Pass. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's like outtakes from shows. Sometimes it's, me talking about something that happened in my life. Sometimes it's, the first, the first information you're going to get on who to pick up on waivers, right? A special waiver wire show on a Monday or something. So you never know what we're going to do.
Bunch of bonus
on the patron only bonus show, but it's been really popular, and so it works. So yeah,
that's awesome. That sounds really good.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's good.
Awesome, man.
That's good, man. Life's good.
It sounds great.
Good.
Sounds
good. It's pretty good.
Also, hey, shout out to No Halftime. They sponsor this podcast too, man.
Great, No Halftime's great, man. I love that whole idea of you just take a single player. If you like a player this week, like Devin Funchess every week, and you can just match him up against somebody else, and someone else will take the other side.
It's great, man.
That's all no halftime is. It's player props. And they facilitate it online and make it super easy. I love it. I can't believe it's legal. It's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I always tell people, whenever you get into these debates with people, I always say just settle it on no halftime. It's like the easiest way to do it. Like it tracks everything for you.
Man, that's what it's there for.
It's fun. I want to ask you one thing, Matt, before we go here. I do this, I do a show a lot of times late, like on the weekend and stuff before football starts and everything. And I do this segment on there where I give players, usually one at each position or just whatever, but it's I told you so players of the week. Like guys that I feel like, not everyone's talking them up. They're not getting crazy hype, but I feel good about them. Even if it's just a waiver play or a guy you're buying for the low, whatever it is. Could you give one guy that you feel really good about that? You'll be screaming, I told you so after the week.
Not this week, but for the rest of the season, Roger Lewis. Roger Lewis, absolutely. I'm not saying he's going to break out this week because he's facing Aqib Talib, but he is going to end up being the number one receiver for the Giants. It's not Sterling Shepard. It's absolutely Roger Lewis the rest of the way. So you need to pick him up now just in case he does well next week, because if he does well next week, he'll be a very difficult get on the waivers. So make sure you get him stashed this week. Wait and see how he does, but I'm very, very, very hopeful for my man, Roger Lewis.
By end of season, you will be telling him I told you so. I know it, man.
Yeah, this week I love Mark Ingram for sure. I'm all about Mark Ingram in all formats. You got to get Mark Ingram in DFS in particular. Mark Ingram's price is ridiculous in DFS this week, especially on DraftKings. He's an absolute free square running back. You cannot build a lineup without Mark Ingram in it, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
So in terms of this week, there's no better option than Mark Ingram. I also think T.Y. Hilton's going to go off. T.Y. Hilton's going to be a top 5 option this week. When you talk about the T.Y. Hilton ceiling, 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, absolutely could be this week.
That's
even
insane.
Without Andrew Luck. I think we've seen Jacoby Brissett. He's starting to mature. He's growing, developing. He's getting settled, and he's got radar lock on this T.Y. Hilton, man. And they're going up against the Tennessee Titans that allow more than a touchdown per game above the mean to opposing wide receivers. So this is the week to play T.Y. Hilton, absolutely. So especially in a GPP game. So basically in cash games in DFS, Mark Ingram, 100%. And then in GPPs in particular, you got to have T.Y. Hilton in there. Got to have T.Y. Hilton.
Nice. Ingram and Hilton this week.
These are the top 5 guys. These are top
Lewis,
5 guys. If you want to go a little bit deeper, I have Chris Hogan as a WR1 this week. Chris Hogan's happening. It's time to wake up on Chris Hogan.
That's true. That is happening.
Yeah, Chris Hogan's absolutely happening.
They don't want to.
And Adam Thielen's going to happen this week. Even it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, because Stephon Diggs is hurt and he doesn't play well with a strained groin. Unfortunately, this is a regular occurrence for Diggs, the strained groin, which throttles his output. But Adam Thielen is going to command a huge target share against Green Bay in what could be a shootout, with Adam Thielen posting over 100 yards and being the go-to guy for Case Keenum this week. I see that happening, absolutely.
That's a bunch of good guys there. So people have no excuse, man. You just gave a bunch of good I told you so players, man.
Yeah, yes. Tight end Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper this week. I
heard you talking about him, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, Miami's giving up a lot of points to opposing tight ends, and if Mohamed Sanu doesn't play, based on the law of the conservation of targets, someone has to catch those passes that would have gone to Mohamed Sanu. And I like Austin Hooper because he commanded a significant target share last week for the first time all season. But when he's targeted, he's really efficient. It's just that last week, in week 4, I should say, because they had a bye last week, he had 34 routes run and 7 targets. So he's looking like this week's George Kittle. Yeah,
I seen you mention George Kittle too. You feel good about him also this week, though, right?
Maybe. I'm not as excited about George Kittle. You have to be based on the usage, the routes, and the targets. You have to like George Kittle, but I'm more excited about Austin Hooper this week.
Tight end is so volatile, man. It's like up and down.
Yeah, you don't know. I like Austin Seferian Jenkins too. You don't know.
Yep.
You need these guys. We need these guys badly because the position is such a wasteland We need Hooper and Kittle and ASJ badly to rescue this position.
That's it, man. That's it. Matt, thank you again, man. I appreciate you, taking your time to come on here. Hopefully we can do this again.
I gave you like 7.
You gave me like 7. So that's good. You covered your bases.
All the positions, yeah. We
Yeah,
even talked about Austin Carr out of nowhere.
we pretty much covered everybody, I think. Anybody you need to worry about.
Yeah, we went from DFS to deep dynasty. Wow, Clock Dodgers coming through.
Coming through in the paint, man.
Great content, Clock Dodgers.
Thank you to you, Matt. I appreciate it. I hope we get to do this again sometime, man. This was fun. So I appreciate it, man. And again, follow him on Twitter, Playerprofiler, RotoUnderworld, Patreon, all the good stuff. It's all worth it. Thank you, Matt.
Man. Thanks.
And that right there is what we call a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. That's a wrap. Matt Kelley, fantasy_mansion on Twitter. Please follow him, guys. Please go check out his website. Listen to the podcast. Subscribe. If you like it, leave a heartfelt review. Seriously, though, really good dude. I know if you're listening, you got a whole bunch of stuff there, right? It's a lot. There was a lot to take in. So I hopefully you pick some things up that you can apply to your leagues and to your daily fantasy sports apps and whatever else you're doing, right? Thank you again to Matt Kelley. Great dude. I definitely look forward to having him on here again and chatting and getting into some other stuff. So thank you again to Matt Kelley. Again, the podcast is sponsored by No Halftime, daily fantasy sports app, promo code CLOCK, CLOCK. Get on there now. If you haven't already, if you listen to some of the episodes, we talk about it every episode, but when you subscribe to the podcast and go back and listen to some episodes or catch the new episodes when they come out, I do a lot of stuff with No Halftime as far as challenges that I like for the week, ways to set challenges so that people will accept them. So I highly encourage you to listen to those episodes. A lot of times they come out on Saturday or Sunday before the games, end of the week type stuff usually. So look for those episodes because there is challenges and stuff that I think will really help you guys as far as winning and getting people to accept challenges and whatnot on No Halftime. But use the promo code CLOCK when you sign up. It's super helpful that if you guys do that, because the reason that you use the promo code CLOCK, not only to receive that bonus, but it lets them know that, we're sending Clock Dodgers out there and Clock Dodgers are enjoying their product. So it's super helpful when you guys do that. And when you share it with your friends and your family, it's just a nice gesture. If you're new to the podcast and you enjoy it, I hope that you subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Again, it's kind of the lifeline here that we need, right? It keeps this thing pushing, stronger, growing the community. Same thing with leaving reviews. If you enjoy the podcast, please do that. Anything you could do to help, it's greatly appreciated. Don't forget to visit clockdodgers.com. Yes, we have a website. We have a fully functioning, state-of-the-art website with fantastic articles from people who bust their ass to give you guys information, advice, entertainment. So I highly encourage you guys to check out clockdodgers.com. Every single week there's new articles up. All right, we never leave you guys hanging. It's also the source where you could find every podcast episode, things we're doing, updates, all kinds of stuff you can find at clockdodgers.com. And of course, the easiest way to get in contact with me is at Clock Dodgers on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever's your social media app of choice. Follow us on there. It's at Clock Dodgers. Any app you use, if we're using it, look for at Clock Dodgers because that's what we're going to be using. That's our handle everywhere. So hit us up on all those things. Sleeperbot, Fantasy Life app. We're on all of them. Join the Clock Dodger chats in there, the Clock Dodger channels, whatever the case may be. You can find us. We love talking to you guys. We love growing the community. It's a fun family. It really is. So I will catch you guys then. And you guys have a great day. Also, shout out thoughts. Thoughts go out to everybody in California dealing with those fires. If you have family out there, if you're out there, just know we're thinking about you guys. Stay safe. It's a terrible thing that's happening. And we've been hit by a lot of stuff lately, right? The hurricanes, the fires, things like what happened in Las Vegas, which again, our condolences go out to those victims as well. The big thing, guys, is we have to pick each other up, right? So that's what we're here for. That's a big part of being a Clock Dodger, right? Part of being this Clock Dodger family is caring about each other, helping each other grow, pursuing your passions, living outside of that 9-to-5 mindset. That's what it's about. Dude, whether it's through entertainment, whether it's through education, whatever it's through, get away from that 9-to-5 mindset. There's so much more to offer. All right? As always, guys, it's been great. I'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you for all the continued love and support. Let's keep going with this thing. Have a great week 6. Kick ass out there. Clock Dodgers, as always, be kind, be great, keep dodging.
Visit clockdodgers.com for more unique content. Connect with us now by following at Clock Dodgers on Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope.